Perfect. So awesome. Welcome to this workshop. This is one of 3 of the psycho-development. Right? Psycho-development. It's kind of interesting because after a while, and the reason why I threw that in there is because we start feeling a little crazy sometimes. And I'm full-blown cray-cray, so it's okay to feel a little crazy, to walk on the wild side, and I'll explain a little bit more when we talk about the left hemisphere of the mind and the right hemisphere of the mind, because we live in a very, we live in a very left hemisphere world of logic and science and touch it and critical thinking, but the right hemisphere is all about that intuition, symbols, dreams, music. And so sometimes when we stray too far over into that area, the world starts looking at us like we're crazy, right? And so we're going to try and find a balance and open up all of those, right? And create some new neural pathways that will assist. So thank you very much for joining me today.
Did you lose us?
It's my cat's. It's my third eye dropped out.
Super glue anyone?
Super glue anyone. I know, my third eye fell out of my head. It's not going to do good for business. They call me Granddaughter Crow. I am born to the Billigana clan for the Tachini clan. I'm a member of the Navajo Nation as well as Dutch heritage. 50% Navajo Nation, 50% Dutch heritage. And in that, if you kind of think about it, you've got that cowboy and Indian effect. I also look at it as the Dutch heritage, or the Dutch side of me, is extremely scientific and logical, and that's where I get all this little intellect has taken me through schooling and everything. And my business side, I kind of say, I lean on my Dutch side for that. And then my Navajo side is where I get a lot of my symbols and spiritual, different type of looking at the world. And so I really personally kind of treat it as a right and left hemisphere thing, but that's just for me individually. So I kind of share on both. If you've never taken a Granddaughter Crow class before, I want to just welcome you and let you know that, yeah, if I do say something funny, you actually can laugh. Don't take me too seriously, right? Tracy, take your cues from Tracy, she loves to laugh. In addition to that, if you do have a question, feel free to raise your hand, that type of a thing. Sometimes I open it up a little bit more so that we can, navigate through all the information and I can touch exactly what you're looking for. Or sometimes I roll too fast past things, feel free to, what? Like one time, nobody said anything and I was watching the recording and I was talking about, oh yeah, we'll just make lemons out of lemonade. And nobody said anything. And I went home and I was like, that's backwards. You can't make lemons out of lemonade. Say anything, right? It's just fun. So don't take me too seriously. But I do offer, the way that I represent is on behalf of spirit, on behalf of your internal wisdom, and on behalf of the information that I have gained and grown, and behalf of my experience. And so basically what I do is I lay out a buffet. I invite you to select that which works with you. If you are vegan and I say something meaty, you do not have to partake of that, you see? And so it's up to you. My teaching style is most aptly described by Khalil Gibran, the prophet. He says on teaching, no man can give another man his wisdom, for we each all have our own wisdom. So GDCism is the greatest teacher lies within you, because that's where wisdom solidifies itself. I've had many great teachers. The wisdom never solidified itself. That wasn't the teacher's fault. Sorry, Mrs. 4th grade teacher, Mrs. Babbitt, I almost failed, right? So, wasn't her fault. I was like, yeah, I really don't want to do that anymore, right? So nevertheless, if you do gain inspiration, that's what I'm here to give you: encouragement, knowledge, experience. But if something clicks inside of you, thank your internal wisdom keeper, right? That was you. That was you. So, in this first class, I want to kind of touch on a lot of beautiful things. One of the things is psychic abilities. Some people do not feel comfortable with the word psychic, which is fine. Then every time I say the word psychic, just superimpose the word intuition. Intuition, she means intuition, that's fine. But psychic, I actually had to grow comfortable with that word, you know, and now I think it's just fun, right? Psychic. In the English-speaking society, we tend to think that our psyche is individualized. That you have a psyche which is different than your psyche, which is different than your psyche, etc. And you have your own, and if mine is out of balance, then I go to see a psychologist, a psychotherapist, a psychic, right? So it's the psyche. Native American, or at least in the Navajo way, we don't really look at psyche as individual, compartmentalized. We look at it as though it is the air that we all live in, the collective conscious type of thing. Like it is the ocean and we are the fish and we're flowing through it and with it. If you do, I did the etymology on the word psychic or psyche. And you can do your own because I'm kind of relying on Google and you never know, but they kind of went back and said that it's got this Latin connotation and this Greek connotation, which actually means air or breath. So in that, kind of defining it as, oh, what are we doing? Well, I'm a fish that is aware that I'm swimming in the psyche. And I know when a wave hits me, I've learned what does that mean, right? So what are we doing? We're picking up energy. Einstein says all is energy. And he says that that is actually, it's a fact, all is energy. And the energy, when we look at it, is not just person, place, thing. There's emotional energy. There's mental energy. There's spiritual energy. Those are always fun. There's energy from the other side. There's energy in here. All is energy. All is energy. So what are we doing? We're perceiving energy. And one of the things that we'll do in this workshop today is take a look at the different types of clairs and how we are perceiving energy, how you are, what are your stronger suits. You can kind of go through it. I don't lay out all of them because I don't talk about telepathy as much, but we can for those of you who are telepathic, right? I heard you. No, I'm just I know she's like, I'm not on camera, by the way. Take it off for a reason, right? So we'll be looking at that and how we are perceiving energy, and then also how do we increase and figure out what we're doing. So Granddaughter Crow, how do I do this? Well, spirit and energy, English is not its first language. English is not spirit's first language. English is not symbols' first language, but it is our first language or second language, right? So what is part of our job, developing our psychic abilities, is learning how to translate, interpret, what does this energy mean in English? And I think that if somebody were to ask me today, how do I define what I do? I would have to say, I'm probably about 80% I'm a translator. Because what will happen is I will receive energy from different sources and different ways and different things, even through dreams, and then I have to put it into English. And I've been honing that for so long that I can tell slight differences in energy. I can tell, like, if somebody comes in and they're sad, I can tell, is this yours? It doesn't feel like yours. It feels like you're sad for someone else. And they'll be like, oh my God, you're right. So I mean, and that's what we're going to be doing, and that's what I'd encourage you to do. So even if this is the only workshop that you do, start dialoguing and communicating with this energy. We're going to figure out, how do you personally perceive it? There isn't just one way, but how do you perceive it? I still have more gifts that are opening up. One gift that is opening up more and more and more is psychometry, right? Psychometry is when you touch something and you get the energy of it, like this, and you get the energy.
Would that go along with feeling somebody else's energy? If they've touched something and then you 2 minutes later go and touch the same thing, you can
Tune into theirs. Yep.
feel theirs that they left? Okay.
And one distinct way, I was kind of playing around with this until one day one lady came in and she was asking me about her relationship, her marriage. And I was like, well, no. And she pulled off her wedding ring, grabbed my hand. What do you see? She says. And I'm like, and I was like, okay, I'm seeing a dining room table. And da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So it just was a tool that opened that up a little bit more. So you may have that. Or you sit down in a booth and you're like, ugh, who sat here? You know, or who sat here? You know, sometimes it's good. So how are we perceiving it? One time I taught this class, and at the end of the series, a very scientific person came up to me and was like, did you help me to develop my psychic abilities, or did you help me to remove the blocks that society and life has instilled? And I'm all, damn, you got me, you know? Right? So a lot of this workshop is going to be kind of changing or shifting, if you allow it to, your worldview on how to perceive what you're perceiving. It can get overwhelming when you realize that all is energy, and we're not talking just about those types of energies that I mentioned, the body, the physical, and the mental, and the emotional, and the spirit. I'm talking about past and future energies. We pick those up. We just have to figure out, is this coming from the past or is this a future thing? Just like we do with fear. I am nervous today, I am afraid. Is it because something is coming, or is it because I have been in this type of situation and it went awry? And when you realize, oh, it was the past, then you can let it go and open up with curiosity. But it's hard because a lot of times our fears and our dreams and our hopes and our intuition, they feel the same. So it is very difficult. You'll hear a lot of people say, I can't read myself, you know? And I'm kind of one of those people. I can, but like when I'm flipping cards, I'm like, hey, that's not right. Okay, do this again. No, that's not right. You know, and I'm like, ugh. Whatever, I have to go see a psychic, right? I'm like, I need external opinion because I'm not able to differentiate right now what is my hope and my fear with my intuition, because I'm right here with me, right? So sometimes you notice that, sometimes you're okay with it. So what are we doing? Well, we're perceiving. That's very natural. We're perceiving energy. And so if you talk to Julie, one time I was walking in the shop and she says to somebody, she says, oh honey, don't be so afraid of your intuition. We all have it to some degree. She says, what do you think when we used to, way back when in the history of man, before we even developed a language and everything, we would be walking and go, oh, I'm gonna partake of this berry. But sometimes you're like, I don't want to partake of that berry. It was our intuition. It was driving us. It's just in this day and age, we tend to kind of shut it down, and opening it back up is, I should have a legal disclaimer, opening it back up can make you feel more crazy. But then you come and take the class again, and then I try to logically explain to you what's going on, because I am very good at that, because I have to continuously logically explain to myself what's going on. Right? So, one of the things that I want to mention, here's a good psychic development tool. The 3 or 4-fold breath. I know, breathing as a psychic tool, yeah. It's not only good for being alive, it also helps. So what is a 3-fold breath? The first fold is the inhale, the second hold is where you hold, the third fold is where you exhale. And you start finding your own rhythm and your own pattern with this. So it's like, what is a 4-fold breath? Inhale, hold, exhale, hold. Figure out which one relaxes you more. This simple tool you can do anywhere, anytime. Well, one time I tried it in the shower and I got water in my nose, so. Right? Why would this help us with psychic development? Because it starts putting us into alpha state. We flow around in beta state. Then there's alpha state. Then there's theta state. And there's more states. There's a delta and I think a gamma. So we float around in beta state, which is where we are most of the day. It's like doo, 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 doo. It actually is 14 to 40 pulses per second your mind is working, which is even faster than that, but you know what I'm saying. It's moving fast. And that's why we multitask and we can da-da-da-da-da-da-da, you know. I remember when I was little, I would play Pong. Am I dating myself? I'll say Atari. I'll just kind of give myself, is that still dating myself?
Yeah.
I thought it took 10 years off my, okay, so I played this very slow game that people would never play today. We literally are living in this environment where it's like, it's not downloaded yet. It's like, yeah. We live in a very fast-paced society. So we're living in beta state when you're driving, when you're going to the store, when you're at work, da 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 da. Then alpha state, when you do your breathing, it's about 7 to 14 pulses per second. It brings you down, centered, meditative, almost hypnotic. You start relaxing, you start paying attention. As although the pulses are slower, we learn deeper in those areas and we receive intuitive hits quicker in those areas. So if you've ever had a Granddaughter Crow reading, I'll be like, I draw a circle around this space, around this time, declaring this space as sacred space, and this time is a very sacred time. I'm going to set my ego to the outside of the circle so I can be a clear conduit for you and for the divine as it reveals itself to you, to provide you with whatever wisdom, knowledge, clarity, whatever it is, it's going to be the most beneficial to you at this time. You guys calmer? I'm getting myself into that alpha state. And I'm tuning out the world around so that I can pick up the energy that's within your field. That's what I'm doing. So one really cool thing about main thing about psychic development, ground and center, ground and center, ground and center, ground and center, ground and center. I'm going to be repeating that throughout the workshop because that's responsible Granddaughter Crow, right? Otherwise I'm like, fly, just help me. But then you can't get the information here and then you're so spiritually minded that you know earthly good. So because I get myself in that state, I have an agreement with, I don't know what you guys want to call it. I call it the universe, sometimes I'll call it the divine, sometimes I will call it life. Sometimes I'll call it energy, that which is outside of myself, yet flows through me, that type of thing. So I've created an agreement as a partner with the divine that when I do that, then I go into a state of perceiving. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm not always there, it's just more honed. And I know that I'm not picking up residual energy. If you catch me in the shop and you ask me a question, I still may be able to give you the answer, but it may have some residual energies around it, you know? So it's kind of like, the other day, sometimes we're psychic and we don't mean it. Actually, a lot of times I'm psychic and we don't mean it. So like one time I'm talking to somebody and then I said this really crazy, I've never said it before in my life. I was like, oh, just say, that's not my circus, that's not my monkey. And she just went, get out of my energy field, get out of my energy field. She said that like her boyfriend had been saying that to her all week. That's the first time she's ever heard it, and now I said it, and then I looked at her, I was like, sorry, I've never said that before. I've heard it, but I've never said it before. So I was tapping into her energy, and it's like, oops, sorry, didn't mean to do that, right? Didn't mean to do that, wasn't invited in. Just kind of like, I'm kind of like a vampire. Oh, turn the recording off, I'm kind of like a vampire, and I'll come into your energy field, but I can't come in unless you invite me, right? But I'm a good vampire. Right. I'm playing. I'm a bad vampire.
Like you're a best.
Oh, no, right. Yeah, right. No, I'm just kidding. But it is one of those things that I'm playfully explaining that with psychic ability, we walk around and we see it and stuff, but unless you're invited in or somebody asks you for a read, please don't. It's not cool with their energy. I've actually had to say to people, oh, I didn't ask you for a read, you know? And you get these people who come in and they're like, I see this, and I'm like, that's cool, you know? But when somebody asks you, or when you pick something up, or that type of a thing, feel free to say it or do it. I could go on and on about that, but it's just basically psychic ethics. Just use the same ethics that you do here on the 16th Street Mall or wherever you go. If you're walking down the 16th Street Mall and you hear a conversation between two ladies, because you hear it doesn't mean that you're supposed to do something with it. I hear that all the time. But Granddaughter Crow, I heard this in spirit, what am I supposed to do with it? And I'm like, maybe nothing, right? Figure it out. If I were to go over to those two ladies and was like, oh, they'd be like, excuse me, this isn't your conversation. I pick up a lot of psychic residual energy and I have to go, I'm walking down the 16th Street Mall, just because I hear it, just because I see it, just because I smell it, doesn't mean that I have to address it. So that's just kind of one of the ethical things. Or if I see a guy who doesn't have legs, he's in a wheelchair and he has a red hat, I don't go, oh, dude, did you know that you don't have legs and you're in a wheelchair and you're wearing a red hat? He'd be like, yeah. And so it is when I'm like walking through the shop and I feel that somebody just is experiencing that somebody died. I know that feeling. You know, I'm like, oh, there was a death. Doesn't mean that I gotta go, oh, did you know that there's death around you? They'd be like, oh, thanks, you know, I was trying to, you know. And it's kind of funny too, because a lot of times people will come into the shop and I'll walk up to them and they'll be like, and I can tell that they're like, what do you see? And usually when they do that, I just look at them and I'm like, have you ever talked to a person like me before? And I'm like, it's okay. You know? I had this one lady who came in for a reading and she was hilarious. She was like, I didn't have any wine last night. I took a full-blown shower in Epsom salts and I aligned my chakras. And I'm just like, okay, that's cool for you. You know, it's not gonna, you know, that type of a thing. It's so cute. It's so cute because she didn't want to carry any residual energies. And I'm like, I can blow through the residual energies, you know. So, yeah, she was just so cute. There was another lady, and this was before marijuana was legal. And maybe she got her medical license or something like that. And she's gonna come see the shaman. So she messages me before and she says, would it be better if I was high? I'm like, I'm not an ayahuasca ceremony, right? It's just so cute. And I say these things because I want to kind of expand how I see me is kind of like la 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 la. How other people may perceive me is like. So as you gain and grow in your psychic abilities, realize that the perception, people can get kind of freaked out. But this is where I work, you know that if you come and see me, what's going to happen. But it's hard for me to go to King Supers. It really is, because I'm going, oh. Yeah. It is, it's hard. It's hard. So I'm going to do these handy handouts. Just take one, pass it.
Do random strangers like reach out to you for no reason when you go out and interact with the public? Just random people saying hi or like stuff like that? Do they pick up on you or no?
Yes, but I have to be honest. Yeah.
Do you need one?
Yeah.
I'm
There
sorry.
should be more.
Okay. Do you need one?
There's plenty. Yeah, there's plenty.
Oh, I'll just take them all back.
Cool.
When they reach this point,
Cool. Yeah, just set them down.
I'll hoard all the
Okay, cool.
packets. Thank you.
So I would say yes. However, because of who I am and what I do my best to block that.
Yeah, I just said hi
rarely-
and keep walking.
yeah.
But it's weird because
Yes.
now random people are like, hi, hey, and I'm like, hi, keep walking.
Right. You're empathic, right? That's probably what that is.
Okay.
Yeah. Because empaths are really good listeners and they're very, that type of
The
thing.
people don't know why they're saying hi and going up to you, or they do? You know what I mean? Like, are they drawn?
Mhm. Some are drawn and some are deflected. Just as much as that happens when I'm walking through the store stuff, I get people protecting their children. Maybe it's the hat.
I like the new hat.
Do you like it?
I like the new hat.
It's really cool.
It's very cool.
This is the first time it's debut.
debut.
I haven't put all the decorations that I will,
Oh,
but yeah, thank you very much. So let's take a look at what did I just hand out. The clairs. We'll kind of get into the types of psychic abilities. So clair in Latin means clear. So we're looking at the senses, right? And there's more than just these. But these are the ones that this class is going to kind of take a look at because we understand sight and hearing and touch and taste and those types of things. So clairvoyance means clear vision. When you have this gift, you see things. Some people, and there's varying degrees, okay? There's 2 points I want to make. One, that there's varying degrees, and sometimes if you're not perceiving it clearly, it's because it's not portraying itself to you clearly. So just remember that. Varying degrees. Sometimes I will see kind of a flash or something like that, and sometimes I get this whole movie screen effect. Sometimes, and here's part of it. Has anybody seen something out of the side of their eye and then when they turn and look at it, it's gone?
Yeah.
Raise your hand if you haven't, if that hasn't happened to you.
I'm just kidding.
So it's happened to all of us. One, Granddaughter Crow, what was it that I saw? And two, why did it disappear when I looked at it? Well, and you saw energy, and this is where you get to be the energy detective. You get to feel into it and go, was that human? Was it a light? Was it comfortable, familiar to me? Did it feel like my dad? Did it feel like, you get a kind of detective, you ask yourself those questions. Why did it go away when you looked at it? Well, now we're going to get into a little bit of quantum physics. Yes.
Quick question.
Yes.
Does clairvoyance include remote viewing and dreaming?
Yeah, if you see in remote viewing and in your dreams? Yes, it's just about seeing.
Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
no, you're absolutely fine. It's sometimes people will say inner seeing. Sometimes I do see things with these eyes, and sometimes I see things with my third eye. So it was really hard because when I started developing seeing things through these eyes, it was harder to drive. Seriously, because I was like, whoa, oh, that wasn't a person. Did you see that? Okay, cool, it was just me. Wait, I'm crazy and now I'm happy about it? So,
As long as you didn't hit the
Yeah.
whatever, you're good.
yeah, well, I was in a different dimension, so. They didn't wrap through. No, I'm just kidding. So, quantum physics tells us, if you watch What the Bleep Do We Know, that's a really cool show. I'd highly encourage you guys going home, YouTubing What the Bleep Do You Know, and watching it. Because they have a lot of this quantum physics stuff going on. In that show, and I've watched it, and I freeze framed it, and I rewinded it, and copied it, and I'm just like, whoa, and I reference it a lot, especially in this workshop. They said that between the age of 0 and 5, it's like the optical nerve or whatever is going on in the back of your mind is literally recording everything that you're seeing. And then after about 5 years old, it starts playing it back. So you're not always seeing what's right in front of you. You might be looking at a recording. Isn't that weird? It's true though. My father, full-blood Navajo, English is his second language. He went into the army and he was shipped to Okinawa Island. And so he has to go out to California or whatever, and he saw this ocean and he had never seen an ocean before. His mind could not compute, what is that? What is that? What is that? What is that? He said he thought it was a mountain because it was,
Endless.
yeah, and you can't see over it. He
It's
couldn't.
hard to see clouds that look like faraway mountains.
Yes, exactly. And so he couldn't figure it out. In What the Bleep Do We Know, there's a scene where the shaman is standing on the beach and he sees that the waves are changing. So he's like, there's something out there. So every morning he would go out there and look and be like, show me what's right before my eyes. What is this? Because he wasn't computing. It was like his own mind was blocking it from seeing it because it didn't understand what it was. Finally, he went out and he saw that there's a huge ship coming in that had been there for days. There's also this YouTube video about, watch this dance. And so you see this stage and you see all these people dancing. And at the end of the video, it says, did you see the penguin? And it's like, what? Rewind the video in the back. I was paying attention to everybody dancing. There's this big ass person dressed up like a penguin in the background. You know, it's all goofball. And it's like, why didn't I see that? My mind literally blocked it out. So it is with our peripheral vision, sometimes we can perceive what's there, but when we look at it, our mind erases it. That's my explanation at least. And it's based on quantum physics, so I feel pretty confident.
So it's like,
Yeah, well, yeah, 1, 2, 3.
A little off topic.
Cool.
If anybody wakes up from sleeping, this happens to me sometimes in the middle of the night, and I'll see something.
Yes.
It looks like, I freak out. It looks like I'm lying down in bed and a spider is coming towards me, and I'll jump out of bed and it's not there.
Right.
I have that same thing.
So how
What
I
is that with
would,
a spider? Oh, it freaks me out.
yeah, we could go into that part, but one of the beauties that I
See,
want
it's
to,
like that, it's not
right?
there.
What I want to say is you were in theta. So alpha, and I'll complete this, alpha is like 7 to 14 and theta is dream state, which is like 4 to 7 pulses per second. You were in theta state, you started coming up through alpha and you jumped into beta and it erased itself, basically. You can have a lot of psychic development stuff when you're just about ready to fall asleep. But then you wake yourself up and try and write it down, you forget. Yeah, okay.
I was gonna say with the peripheral, is that why it's easier to see people's auras like from the corner of your eye?
Sure.
and, like, with
That
the
would make it
peripheral?
make sense, yeah. That would be an example of that. And remember, magic and all of this stuff doesn't have hard, fast rules. They're rules of thumb. Play with it and see what sits right with you, because the next time I roll out this class, I'll be talking about, oh, and here's another explanation for that. But at least it gives you a solid evidence of that.
Back to when you said birth to the age of 5, you record, is that why babies and toddlers can see spirit and things that we can't? Like I know
Yep.
Zachary saw his guardian angel when he was 8 months old, and a month before he was attacked by our Doberman Pinscher.
Yes.
So I know he saw that.
Yeah.
You can't tell me he didn't, but
Right. So here's a question. When you were little, did you have experiences that are kind of psychic or weird that you don't have now? If that doesn't make sense to you, raise your hand. I just figure.
So that was one of the things when I was younger, I would see things.
Yes.
And one of the things that I've read, that one of the things that the brain does is that if we see things and they scare us, that the brain will put up a wall.
Sure.
And so then you can't see things right in front of you that scare you. And so it blocks you from
Yes.
being able to see that and filters them out.
Yes.
So then I will be walking along and have an impression
Yes.
of somebody standing there, but I can't see it.
Yeah.
And then, so the brain is like, oh no, I'm protecting you.
Yep.
And so then you have to break that back down in order to be able to see them again.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I'm not necessarily teaching you how to develop by giving you exercises. I'm teaching you how to remove blocks. That type of thing.
So where does that fit in with the concept, if it does fit in, of like imaginary friends?
Yes.
Are you like
Absolutely.
picking up on some sort of energy that you have, and then of course, as you get older,
Yes.
it goes away, or you don't recognize it?
Yeah, and a lot of the reasons why it goes away isn't necessarily because we stop seeing it. It's because we're told that that's
It's not
not
there.
right and it's not there. And especially when we're like, okay, it's not there. The beauty of my life, I have a lot of hardness with my life as well. One of the beautiful gifts is that my mother never put those blocks in. My father is a reverend of the Christian faith. His little sister, high priestess of Peyote Way. My grandfather, medicine man. His brother, medicine man. There's a lot of medicine. My father decided to go to the Christian path. And in the Christian path, they first went denominational, which is very strict. You're not supposed to see, lay hands on the sick, be able to have visions, words of knowledge, prophecy, and all of that. But my mother, I'm the youngest, she said, when you were in my belly, I was filled with the Holy Spirit. I don't know if these are terms that you guys are familiar with or not, but this is my story. She was filled with the Holy Spirit. So apparently I was filled with the Holy Spirit too, or I brought it in from the stars or something, I don't know. But when I came out, which I shouldn't have been born, but I was very healthy, and I became her little buddy, and we would see psychic development. What did you hear? What was your impression of that building? What did you see in the spirit? We would get into these trance states, and one of us would record the vision of the other, vice versa. I was literally raised to be a conduit without those blocks. So my mom didn't put those blocks in. She did other things, so she's still, sorry.
But in addition, she actually helped you develop them, which was,
She definitely helped me to develop them on a daily basis.
that's huge different.
On a daily basis. And so that's why I approach this from a different way, because I see it from a different way, you know? And then when I was 17, I decided to try to put the kibosh on it, you know? And then it decided to, okay, you've been away long enough, granddaughter, come on back. Oh yeah, I remember all this. So hopefully that answered everybody's questions. I want to continue on. So clairvoyance, clear vision. You see, clairaudience, clear hearing. Sometimes the voice will be, oh yeah, that I do have to back up. Now I know what I was going to say. The second point was why does sometimes you see things more solid and sometimes it's really light? Is it because that one time you're not as clairvoyant, or is it because the energy is more solid? Just think about that. Sometimes I talk with people on the other side. I work with people on the other side. This is the meat part that if you're a vegan, you can toss. So in that, some of them do not know that they are on the other side. Some of them do. Some of them know how to project into this realm, but not talk in this realm yet. They still have to go to the how do I communicate with the other side from that side, right, class. There's a workshop like this going on that side right now. I'm just gonna talk to them, you know, they're like, okay, you need to project. So some of them can hear, some of them can talk, some of them can show up. Some of them don't remember who and what they were or where they are. And for those are the ones that are lighter. But there are some individuals who absolutely remember who and what they are. They are our guides and guardians, or they have a message for us, and they're strong enough in that spirit realm to be able to project harder into this realm, just like we can project harder into beyond the veil. Doesn't that make logical sense?
Yeah, like in Ghost, when he could do certain things,
Yes,
the
like
other
in
ghost
Ghost.
could do other things that he couldn't until he learned how to do it.
Yeah, he could move that penny.
Mm-hmm, yep.
Yeah.
And then he learned how to communicate with
Then
her.
he learned how to communicate. And some entities know how to come in, and some just know how to talk. Some of them I don't want in, you know, that type of a thing. But now we're in channeling. So clairaudience, now we'll go into clairaudience. Hearing, sometimes, and there's a variance of degrees here, sometimes it's a strong thought that I wouldn't have thought of, or a word that I don't use, like not my circus, not my monkeys. And sometimes it's a soft thought, we don't even realize it. Sometimes it's a strong thought, and it's like, I can't get this out of my head, what is this, you know? And sometimes it's audible, where you literally are like, what? In order to pick up with sight and sound more, alpha state, go into alpha state. Go into alpha state, so that you can hone it and own it.
So if you hit something and you want to feel into it more, you just start breathing?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what I don't do. I'm gonna hold up my breath or.
Yeah.
Yeah, me
Well,
too.
Yeah.
And not because I'm scared, it's just because I
Right,
Like
you
I
feel
freeze.
Yeah, you freeze.
Yeah. Yeah.
You feel something, you're like,
It seems counterintuitive, but what you do is you go into your deep breathing and into your body. Your body will give you signals. A lot of times, as empaths or psychics or intuitive people, we want up and out. Don't want to be in here. Right? Am I the only one?
You're the only one.
I had to learn how to ground and center, ground and center, ground and center. And then the impressions. Like I literally could, okay, that's another. Yes, did you? No. Okay, moving forward. I don't know, you got a thought or something, sorry. So,
I have a question.
yes,
Does clairaudience, does that include like the ear ringing thing?
yes,
Okay.
perceiving through ear, perceiving through hearing. Yeah. Something in the atmosphere just changed.
can you like hear a voice in your head too? Does
Yep.
that count?
Yep.
Like somebody just telling
Yep.
you, do this.
Yep. I don't speak fluent Navajo, but my grandmother likes to talk to me in Navajo. And I have to write it down and figure out what it means. Yeah.
It's learning.
She's
Learning?
right? Well, that's how grandmothers are, right?
Yeah.
Don't forget your roots.
Right, exactly. So it's those types of things. It has everything to do with hearing. And then clairsentient. This is clear sensation or clear feeling. To perceive information by feeling into it or feeling into it with your body. I work with a lot of, here's another meat thing, if you're a vegan, just dismiss it. Right? Sometimes if somebody has, everybody has negative and positive energies, right? Sometimes I'm sad, and sometimes I'm angry, and sometimes I'm happy, and sometimes I'm depressed. And then sometimes there are actual entities. You know, there are actual entities. So you can dismiss this if you don't like. And some of those entities literally will make me gag. So one time this lady came in, poor lady, I can't believe she paid me for this. But anyway, she comes in, she sits down, and I'm like, hi, how you doing? And she's like, my son. I'm like, oh. Does he say that something's following him and he's like, sorry, a demon? And she's like, that's exactly why I'm here. And I'm all, sorry. And I have to move the energy. So pay attention to your body. I know that was horrible, wasn't it? Hope I didn't make any of the ass feel like they were gonna throw up. That was fun. And then it moved away and everybody was free and happy and peaceful. So sometimes, she paid me for that too.
So that would be if you sense like something bad is going to happen to a friend of yours. You're not really seeing it or you're not hearing about it, you're just feeling it.
You're feeling into it within your body.
Can like a spirit that's negative actually make you feel physically ill? Like without anything being wrong with you?
Do you want to answer that or should I? You asked it, absolutely. But I don't want to trip anybody out. With spirituality, think of your spirit as having a body, which gives it the ability to have an age. And when you are a newbie, like 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, spiritually, you have guides and guardians that are always protecting you and feeding you and clothing you. So don't get scared. But when you get to be older spiritually, you got to do that yourself. So don't grow up too fast. Right, but there's totally, you know, when your spirit is young and learning, you literally have guides and guardians and everything. Well, you still get guides and guardians, but they don't feed you, and they're like, you should have known better than to go in there, or whatever, you know, that type of a thing. And so we learn. So that kind of, and yeah.
So it's good then to get rid of spirits like that, not just let them pass on their way in their own time, kind of help them along in that case.
I'm gonna say that for the shamanism series.
Okay.
Because although I say positive and negative, I do my best not to see things as good and evil. We live in a very dualistic realm. The third dimension has a lot of polarities and a lot of dualities. I'll put it this way. A hurricane hits. We perceive it as good and evil. It was a storm and it was exactly what was supposed to happen. It was life and it was nature. And it was doing what it does. So sometimes we put those perceptions on it. But I think you're speaking about something in particular that we could go into some other time.
Okay.
But the answer is, you know. Did you have a? No, okay. I keep, are you guys air signs or something now?
Are we what?
Air signs, are you born Gemini or Aquarius?
I'm fire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then it's the fire. It's the fire. Where there's smoke, there's fire.
So we are wearing our colors, aren't we?
You are. So it's being able to feel within the whole body. And this is very, very good. This is where we call gut check too. We also, this is not just within the body, it's also feeling into the sensation of it as in empathy or being an empath. Clairsentient can also be defined as empathy or empath, which is where you literally feel into the situation. And that's what I say. I'm like, okay, let's feel into the situation. It's like, honey, we've been invited to go to this, da 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 da. I'm gonna feel into it. I don't wanna go. I just feel into it. And that's fun. Clear smelling, clairsent. This one is when you literally smell something and you're like, huh. So for example, I'm in a read, I smell a cigar, I say cigars, and they're like, grandfather. I'm in a read, I'm like, Rose. Oh, my daughter's middle name. I walk into a room, I'm all, bullshit. Right, or no, that was a joke, but it's to impression you. It's to impression you to know that something doesn't smell right. When you say that, you're probably using this. You might not physically smell it, and sometimes you will. Again, there's, a range, but it's the nose. We're gonna go into a guided meditation to kind of be able to figure out which ones you're doing. Clear touch. This one is that clear touching, commonly known as psychometry. That's what I was talking about. When you literally, in this sense, you're touching something and you feel the energy around it. If you are going to do a read in this way, get the energy around something that actually was that person's belonging. I've had people, oh my God, this one time, maybe this is why I like to tell this class, because I get to share these funny stories. This one time, this lady walks in with a bag. I don't know what she's doing, right? Even though I'm psychic, I'm like, what's in the bag? And I set sacred space, and she's like, and I'm like, whoa. She just hands me her father's old wallet. And I go through all this stuff, and finally I was like, I wish I could pull $5 out of here and give it to you. She's like, he used to always do that. Every time he saw me, $5. And I'm like, yeah, he's here. What do you want to know? That type of a thing. Clear tasting. This one is the taste, but it's a psychic taste. It's a flavor. It's like, what is the flavor of that class? We all can kind of, what is the flavor of this? What is the flavor of that? This one is a little odd. We don't use it as much, but it is there. It is there. And a lot of times it is connected with something doesn't taste right. That type of a thing. And then the empath and the empathy is defined a little bit even more down there. This one, I just finished a series up. There's a lot going on in there, and you can, even if you have only that one that you've honed and owned, you're good as gold, right? You're good as gold. Then there's channeling. I wanted to talk a little bit about channeling. I kind of did earlier, but this one is when it happens in a couple of different ways. Sometimes it is where, like in Ghost, that guy came into her and she felt like him and more meat. Yes, I can do that. Don't always like to. I want to reserve that one for if it has to, or if I am going to be on stage and I'm going to channel one deity. I don't channel all deities. Not allow them all in here. They sometimes could talk to me. But I can tell you sometimes they sneak in, because sometimes when somebody's they want to talk with somebody on the other side, I start doing these certain mannerisms that I don't do. And they're like, oh my God, you're doing that just like, and I'm like, you get to decide. You can't always decide what you see and what you hear, but you get to decide how close and how much you engage. Just like in this world, you can't, I don't want to see all this. you know? It's right there, you see it, you hear it, but you get to choose how much you're gonna engage and how much you're going to focus on it, that type of thing. The last one that I wanted to talk about is claircognizance. And I got a little claircognizant joke there. Claircognizance is about knowing. It's about inner knowing. You just know and you don't know how you knew. I know that was my little. But you knew that.
We knew that.
There are other ways and other types of doing things, such as telepathy and such as different types of doing things, but these are the basic clairs that I want to focus on in this classroom. They're the most common clairs. Oh yeah, what if you have, there's a word, what if you have all of these clairs? Do you know what that word is?
Clariful.
Clairol! That's right! Clairol, then you're Clairol. I know. Dumb jokes keep you awake. Somebody told me if they're laughing, they're listening, so. What I want to do is I want to take a moment, and you can, if you have a pen, on the back of this page or somewhere else, or if you just have a good memory, you can do this. So we're going to work with sight, sound, touch, and what are the other ones? Oh yeah, taste.
Taste, smell.
And smell. Thank you. So what we're going to do is I'm going to invite you. You don't have to do this, but it's fun. I'm going to take us, we're going to go into some 3 or 4 fold breaths so that you can start relaxing into what that feels like. We're going to go down about 5 steps. We're going to go through a door where we're going to go into a beautiful area where I will be asking you, there's a bird. Can you see the bird, or do you just know the bird is there? Can you hear the bird, or do you just know that it's making noises? We'll go up to a table. Can you see the orange? Can you feel the weight of the orange? And then you kind of, in your mind, start taking notes about, on a scale from 1 to 10, which one is my strongest, so that you can kind of figure out a little bit more about how you're perceiving in the realms, because that's the inner realm right there. Okay? So, in this moment, and this will just take like less than 5 minutes. So in this moment, I invite you to kind of relax into this space and into this time. And I'm going to invite you to do a 3-fold breath or a 4-fold breath, which basically is like inhale, hold, release. Inhale, hold, release. Inhale, hold, release. And continue to find your own rhythm, your own timing, so that your breath relaxes. And as we do this, we relax, and we're literally dropping into alpha state. Now we stand at the top of 5 steps. Let's descend these steps together. So 5, relax, 4, relax, 3, relax, 2, relax, 1. And we find ourselves in a very small room with a door. So let's go over to the door. Let's open the door. Let's step through the door. Now we find ourselves in a beautiful environment. Begin to slowly move into the environment. Allow the environment to settle in. Note if you can see the environment. Note if you just know that you're there. Then a bird flies over. Look up. Can you see the bird? What kind of a bird is it? And then the bird makes a sound. Can you hear that sound? Or do you merely just know that it's there? And then the bird flies away, maybe follows you. Continue to navigate through this place, this beautiful environment. And all of a sudden there is a beautiful picnic table with a basket on it. Go ahead and open the basket. You reach in and you pull out an orange. Can you feel the skin of the orange? Or do you merely just know what it feels like? Or both? Does the orange have a weight? Go ahead and peel the orange. Pick it up to your nose. Can you smell orange? Then go ahead and take one of the slices, pop it into your mouth. Did you just salivate? So now you can take the rest of the orange with you, or you can leave it there for the other animals that may want to eat it. And I'm going to invite you back. So let's kind of turn around, we move back, find the door, step through the door, allow the door to close gently behind you. We're in the room. Now we go to the stairs and we'll ascend the stairs together. So 1, come back, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you begin to find yourself back in this room. You can gently wiggle your fingers and toes and kind of move around as you open your eyes. So that meditation can start signaling you about what gifts you already have, which ones you may want to develop. Who salivated with the orange? Yeah, I did too. I've done this one a handful of times. What happens usually is I tell them to set the orange down, but people want to take it back and finish it. So I added a few words to your bucket. You're out this orange. What are you doing? I'm eating a spiritual orange.
So yummy.
It's so good. It smells good.
Especially this time of year.
This is way too much.
Feedback. Yes.
So I would see, but it was always like off to one side or the other.
Okay.
I don't know what that means. Like,
Sure.
I don't know if it's because I can't see straight.
Right. So your peripheral view.
Yeah.
So then it's kind of signaling you at this time, really pay attention to your peripheral view when you're developing.
Okay.
You know, so it's almost like if I see an entity that comes in, I'll be like, okay, and I won't look directly at it sometimes. I'll just be like, I feel you. You're about this tall, you're male, what other attributes do I feel into? Oh, wow, you're dressed in white, okay, and I one time saw, but sometimes you can develop it where you can see. I actually had to take myself through that. There was one year that I was down for the count with surgeries and on Percocet, but that had nothing to do with this trip. But I was down for the count and I was just in my home. And I began to go, let me see what is right before me. 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 And I worked with that. And I started kind of tripping out because I'd see something and I'd be like, what is that? And then I'd be like, oh, wow, that was the chair. Whoa, that wasn't the Percocet. It's not a hallucinogenic, no. But nevertheless, it's kind of like that. And I see what's right before me. And the beauty is that nothing is right or wrong. I have strong senses with ear, but less sense in my sight in the physical realm. But I have a lot of sight in the spiritual realm and an ear. And sometimes what I'll do is some entities know how to show up in the sight, but they're not talking to me. Maybe they haven't learned how to, but sometimes they can't do that one, so then I I start playing off just like you play off your senses here. Which ones do you depend on? More feedback. What did you guys think? Any clarity?
You know, this is probably the 4th time I've been in the class, and the very first time, my daughter was with me, and it was so funny because on the way home we're like, I don't know, did you hear anything? I don't know, I don't think I heard anything. I don't know, I was trying to see, I don't know, I don't think I saw anything. I don't know. You know, it was all that. And then the next year, when I went and did a very similar one, I was like, oh, I did hear, I did see. Oh yeah, I was salivating, and it was just so different, and I just have to believe it was because of all the, just like raising the awareness of it mostly, and over that year, yes, continued growth. And I was fortunate enough to be at like all of her incredible classes. I'm like, shoot, how can you not be using that muscle? But it's all about all of it, the muscle sensing behind all of it, behind the clairvoyance, the clairaudience, and yeah, developing what you wanted to. And I knew I was so sad I didn't see the bird. So I was like, I just want to see the bird. You know?
And what's interesting too is a lot of times we have these indicators that tell us you have to see a solid bird when you might just be seeing a shadow bird. And so you're like, where is your bird?
I saw a cartoon bird.
You saw a cartoon bird?
Oh,
I love it. I love it.
Because that's what I see is like black shadows, but more so because I hear in my head what you're gonna say before you say it,
Yeah,
and then I hear the bird cry, like the eagle.
yeah.
I hear that when you say okay, and then there's a bird, and so that's how I knew what bird it was by the cry.
Yes.
But I didn't see it, but I could see like the black shadow. And since I know that we're going to the orange, like the whole time I'm just salivating. And like when you bite into a tart orange, whatever, like makes your jaw, like the whole time my jaw's just doing that and salivating because I know that the orange is coming, but.
We'll have to change it up next time.
I know.
Make it a
Well, then
different
it's
Oh no,
color.
she'll get
It's a
upset.
good
She'll
one.
be wanting to orange, and I'll be like,
It's a lemon fruit.
And today it's a melon, and Tracy will be like, I hate watermelon.
I'm allergic to watermelon.
And it's like how I could gauge, because if you did it differently, I
Yeah.
couldn't gauge really
Senses.
how different it is. And
Now versus
which
then.
parts have grown and haven't grown.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. I love it.
I really appreciate you saying, like, show me what's in front of me that I'm not
Yes.
seeing.
Yes.
Because I do that all the time. Like, I know something's there. I
Yes.
can feel it. I know it's there, and I know, like, I have this block. So break down the block so I can see what's right there. So I appreciate you sharing that because I'm like, I have the same thing.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome. How to develop sight. It's very easy. Here's an easy exercise. Close your eyes and see the number 1. Give it a color. Give it solid. Make it solid. Now, see the number 2. Bring it in solid. Give it a different color. Wait until you can see it. And go through to number 3. It's like that. Now you're starting to connect with your inner vision. See a blue car. Go to your house. Did you make your bed this morning? Look at it. Sometimes we're thinking, wait, this is memory. Yeah, it is, but you're still seeing it. Here's a good one. Energy travels. The physical body is the only body that I'm aware of that is subject to linear chronological time. And even in that, it's not, because sometimes you can be at 2 places at one time. But that's a totally different magic. A totally different blast. So think about, Emotions roll throughout space and time. The mind rolls throughout space and time. The spirit rolls throughout space and time. It doesn't have that. And so I like to do these time travel. You guys want to time travel with me really quick. It's really easy. All you do is you think back to yesterday, a meal that you ate. Look at it. Can you see where you are? Do you hear any voices around you? Did you just hear the voice of someone that you were eating with? Did you hear the clanging of something? Did you hear the music that was playing? Can you taste the food? And then you come back here. So we just traveled in time. And it's as easy as it is, and we call it memory and we accept it. So can we go forward? You know? We do that all the time. Our fear loves to do that. Are you kidding me? So just switch out and go, fear, you're not supposed to look into my future. My intuition is supposed to look and feel into my future. See, so you guys, it's pretty easy. Or I think it's pretty easy. Next week, we're really gonna, and it's in your handout, so if you're coming back, feel free to bring the handout with you. If this isn't on the class, I kind of laid it out for you there. The right and left hemisphere of the brain. We live in a very left brain society that says, do, and if you go too much into the arts, if you go too much into the metaphysical, if you can't see it or hear it or something like that, then it doesn't exist. Really, because the right hemisphere exists. Another tool to develop psychic abilities, and I'll kind of go into this next week a lot, is what we're doing. So, synopsis within the mind. We build neural pathways. And this is, then we start developing these neural pathways so incredibly that you can drive to work and not remember how you got there, because it's called autopilot. So we continue to, you know, if I say this and you say that, we go through these states, right? So what do you want to do? You want to build new neural pathways so that you can consider the world around you from a different perspective. Now you'll have more connections. How do you build new neural pathways, Granddaughter Crow? Well, work with your non-dominant hand to do something that you normally would do with your dominant hand. I know, it sounds weird, but it's true. I had my dominant hand, my right hand, was out of commission, so I had to walk through and do all these things with my non-dominant hand. Give yourself patience, because it's like, you know, you feel like you're too writing. You're like, how does this work? I'm trying, I can't open this thing. You know, brush your teeth with your non-dominant hand until next week. Stuff like that. Because you will build new neural pathways. And then all of a sudden, those new neural pathways are stuck in there, and then you'll be able to perceive from not only the autopilot, but you'll be able to become more aware of things. If you want to really do something, go to the grocery store and recognize that you usually go like this and go, I'm going to start at the Coca-Cola aisle. You will see different products that you hadn't seen before. I used to say walk through the grocery store backwards to build new neural pathways, but the literal people, they'd be like,
Plus, they say that's what keeps you young. Old
Oh, it
people,
does?
when they, you know, when they get to like a different,
Relearning?
well, either relearning or learning something that they've never done before, like picking up an instrument when they're 60. It helps keep your brain young, because it's doing exactly what you said, creating a new,
new neural pathways.
And-
Drive a different way to work. Drive a different way home. It heightens your awareness. You may feel weird. That's okay. It's new. But you're building new neural pathways that will not only increase your psychic abilities, but keep you young. And it also helps your creativity. all of a sudden you'll come up with new ideas. If you are like stuck on a problem, you're like, what does Einstein say? You can't solve a problem from the same level that you created it, so you need to change it up.
Oh, I like that.
And so how do you change it up? Well, you drive a different way home and you get a different idea because by God there was a blue house and, oh, well, we'll just change the color on that presentation or whatever, you know, whatever. So I want to take the last 5 minutes, see if there's any other feedback, questions or anything. If there's anything I said back-ass word, like lemonade out of lemons. Or,
I have a question.
yes.
So, like when we did this exercise, the two senses that really didn't come through for me at all were touch and smell. So are those things that you can develop, or are there things that you just have gifts for and maybe you don't have them in other areas?
You can develop all of it. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what you get to decide. You can hone in on, I want to increase, or it's basically awareness. You're aware now of where you're natural or where you're at right now, but my psychic abilities continue to increase. And the ones that, like with the psychometry, you know, I remember when I was little, I could touch something and be like, I don't like that, you know? But when you get older, you have to learn how to, you gotta touch stuff, right? But when I'm in sacred space, I can open up that and do it again still. So it came back. It never really left, it's just I didn't focus on it. Consciousness goes where energy flows, or energy flows where consciousness goes. So if you want something to grow or flow, consciously look at it. That's quantum physics, and we can get into that. Ground and center, ground and center, ground and center, and we'll talk about that too. Anything else? Oh yeah, it's if you draw a circle around yourself like I do, then do your deep breathing and create that sacred space, then you don't get distracted by outside noises. And also, just as, because I'm a responsible granddaughter crow, I knew we'd be talking about psychic abilities. Just attending this class today increased your awareness of because we were talking about it, we dedicated an hour and a half to this. So what I did was I did create a very sacred space before you guys came in, because I didn't want weird energy coming in and out of here. So I was responsible, I cleared the classroom. So with that, I guess I'm gonna let you guys go until next week. You pay me directly. You can do cash and or credit card. If you want to pay as you go, it's 20. If you want to do the whole series, it's 50. I appreciate you guys being here. Have a lovely day.
If we do the 50 and we miss a class because